Okay, Buddy has absolutely no idea where we're going. Not a clue. He just knows the car is moving, and that usually means the vet or the park. Judging by the full body vibrating excitement coming from the back seat, I think he's ruled out the vet. But this is so much bigger than the park. I've had Buddy since he was a tiny puppy, and his entire world has been lawns, hiking trails, and the odd muddy puddle. He has never seen anything like what's waiting for him just over this dune. I have this perfect picture in my head of him sprinting toward the water like a majestic wolf, embracing the wild. But let's be real, I also have a very possible vision of him taking one look at a wave and deciding to hide behind my legs for the rest of the day. You only get one first reaction. This is it. This is Buddy's first time ever seeing the ocean, and I have a feeling it's either going to be pure, unfiltered joy, or the most adorable, confusing chaos you can imagine. Honestly, I'm here for either one. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Ever since it got warm, the idea of a beach day has been stuck in my head. It feels like more than just a day trip. It's about sharing a little piece of the world with my best friend. Taking your dog to the beach is supposed to be this amazing bonding experience, and I was ready. I did my homework, of course. I found a beach that's specifically dog-friendly and double-checked the local rules online. The car is packed with everything the internet said a responsible dog owner needs. We have a giant bottle of fresh water and his bowl, because letting them drink salt water is a huge no-no. We've got towels, his favourite floating frisbee for some truly epic games of fetch, and even some doggy sunscreen for his nose and ears. I even packed a big umbrella to make sure he has a shady spot to cool off. It honestly feels like packing for a toddler, but if it guarantees his first time is a good one, it's completely worth it. He's a good boy and he deserves a great day. Now, let's see what he thinks of it all. The second the car door opened, his nose went into overdrive. The air here is just different. It's thick and heavy with salt and 1,000 smells he's never smelled before. He just stood there for a second on the parking lot pavement, head high, trying to process it all. Then the sound hit him, not just the crash of a wave, but the constant, deep rumble of the ocean. His ears were twitching, trying to figure out this new, all-encompassing sound that definitely wasn't a truck or thunder. I kept him on his leash, like everyone recommended for a dog's first visit, to let him explore without getting totally overwhelmed. We walked over the wooden boardwalk, and with every single step, the roar got louder. And then we reached the top of the dune. He stopped, dead in his tracks. His whole body just went stiff. In front of him was the biggest, widest, most open space he had ever seen. A huge, moving, roaring blue thing on one side, and an endless sandbox on the other. He just stared, tilting his head, his tail perfectly still. He looked at the ocean, then he looked at me, then back at the ocean with an expression of pure, unadulterated, "What is that?" He took one hesitant step off the boardwalk, and his paw sank into the soft sand. He yanked it back like the ground had personally betrayed him. This was not the solid, dependable dirt he knew. This was something else entirely. For a solid minute, Buddy would not move. He just stood on the edge of the boardwalk, one paw touching the sand, looking completely baffled. I sat down next to him to give him a second, letting him approach this weird new world on his own terms. Finally, his curiosity won. He took another step, then another, and suddenly he was on the sand. He walked with these stiff legs at first, lifting his paws super high with each step like he was wading through goo. He lowered his head, gave the sand a giant sniff, and immediately launched into a massive full-body sneeze that sent a little mushroom cloud of sand into the air. He looked so offended. He tried sniffing it again, and another sneeze. Then something just clicked in his doggy brain. A switch flipped. He lowered his head and just started digging. I don't mean a casual scrape. I mean a frantic, two-pawed excavation project. Sand was flying everywhere. It was in his ears, up his nose, all over his face. He'd dig like a maniac for 10 seconds, stop, jam his entire head into the hole he'd just made, and snort with what I can only describe as pure, primal joy. This was the best thing that had ever happened to him. He was born to dig. He made one crater, then abandoned it to start another one a few feet away. He'd pause, look back at me with this sandy, ridiculous grin, his tail wagging so hard his whole body shook, and then dive right back in. The giant, scary ocean was completely forgotten. It was all about the simple, unfiltered happiness of throwing sand everywhere. After wearing himself out as a professional hole digger, Buddy finally noticed the water again. The little white foamy parts of the waves were creeping up the shore, and his ears perked right up. He approached the wet sand cautiously, his body low to the ground like he was stalking prey. A tiny wave, maybe an inch high, washed over his paws. He leapt back like he'd been zapped by an electric fence and let out one sharp, angry bark. He was now in an official standoff with the Atlantic Ocean. He would creep forward, the wave would pull back. He'd get a little bolder, a new wave would rush in, and he'd scramble backward, barking at it for its sheer audacity. It was both hilarious and adorable. I remembered the advice not to force him in. The whole point was for this to be fun, not terrifying. So, I grabbed his favourite floating toy and tossed it just a few feet away, right where the water meets the sand. He looked at the toy. He looked at the water. He looked back at me. You could literally see the internal conflict on his furry face. His love of fetch versus his deep suspicion of this wet, moving monster. He pranced around the edge for a second before finally making a brave choice. He dashed in, snatched the toy, and raced back out, looking so incredibly proud of himself. We did this a few more times, tossing it a tiny bit further each time. Pretty soon, he was splashing around in the shallows. Not exactly swimming, but happily stomping through the waves and chasing the foam. He wasn't a graceful ocean dog yet, but he was a happy, splashing, chaotic mess, which was so much better. The mix of sand-digging happiness and successfully conquering the waves led to a full-blown energy explosion. It started with a look, that wide-eyed, wild look that every dog owner knows. And then he was gone. He wasn't just running. He was doing some kind of high-speed, crazy legs dance. He sprinted in giant, looping circles, his back end trying to lap his front end. The beach is a huge, open space that's just perfect for this, and he was taking full advantage. He would run full speed towards the water, swerve at the last second, kicking up a shower of sand, and then sprint back towards our stuff. He circled me 3 times, then took off in a totally new direction. This was the pure chaos I was talking about. His movements were just pure, unpredictable joy. He was chasing nothing and everything all at once. He saw a flock of seagulls and started a half-hearted charge before getting distracted by a piece of seaweed. He tried to play tug-of-war with it, shaking his head like crazy, before realizing it wasn't, in fact, a rope. He was just a blur of fur and happiness, the perfect picture of canine freedom. Watching him run like that, so free and uninhibited, was just a great reminder of how much simple joy there is in the world. After the zoomies finally fizzled out, he was panting hard, his tongue hanging out, clearly exhausted. This was the moment I had planned for. I led him over to the big beach umbrella we'd set up so he could cool down and avoid overheating. I laid out a towel for him since the sand can get surprisingly hot and burn their paws. I poured him a big bowl of the fresh water we brought, and he drank almost all of it. Then he just collapsed onto the towel with a deep, happy sigh and rested his head on my lap. And we just sat there. All the chaotic energy from the last hour melted away and was replaced by this amazing, peaceful calm. We watched the waves roll in, listened to the seagulls, and just felt the breeze. This was the other side of a beach day. The quiet time that really builds the bond between you and your dog. In that moment, he wasn't a crazy, sand-covered, wave-barking maniac. He was just my buddy. My loyal friend, tired and happy after a huge adventure. I ran my fingers through his sandy, damp fur, and he just leaned in and closed his eyes. These quiet little moments are just as important as the wild ones. They're the heart of it all. The walk back to the car was a lot slower. Buddy trotted happily beside me, his tail giving a slow, steady wag. He was caked in sand from his nose to his tail, a walking, breathing souvenir of his first ocean trip. He looked completely and totally content, his energy spent in the best way possible. He hopped into the back of the car and was fast asleep before I even pulled out of the parking lot, his snores mixing with little sleepy sighs. The adventure was over for him, but the cleanup was just starting for me. As soon as we got home, the first order of business was a good rinse with fresh water to get all the salt and sand out of his fur and off his skin. He wasn't thrilled about the bath, but he was too tired to really protest. Later, as he was curled up on his bed, all clean and fluffy again, I could tell he was dreaming. His paws were twitching, and he let out a few soft woofs. I like to think he was chasing waves and digging giant holes in his sleep, reliving the pure chaos and joy of his very first beach day. So, was my dog's first beach day the perfect, majestic scene I had imagined? Absolutely not. It was way messier, so much more chaotic, and a million times more joyful than I ever could have hoped for. We learned that he is a world-class digger, a cautious but brave wave chaser, and an absolute master of the beach zoomie. It was just a perfect day of exploring, playing, and making a memory that I will cherish forever. What was your dog's first reaction to the beach? Was it love at first sight, or did they have a hilarious standoff with a wave like Buddy did? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you want to see more of Buddy's adventures, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We've still got a whole world left to explore, one chaotic and joyful day at a time.